What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be Paisley's birth story. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, but I just haven't figured out like when I wanted to make it, so today's the day. Everyone gets to hear how Paisley got here. So to start off her story, I feel like I have to back up just a little bit. So at my 36-week appointment, I had mentioned to my doctor that I was interested in getting an induction because I did not want to go past 40 weeks. I think a lot of people are pushed to get inductions nowadays, but for me, I didn't want to go past 40 weeks. I didn't want to be pregnant past the time that I needed to be because 40 weeks, like, they're fully cooked. You know, they don't need to be in there any longer. So I had discussed with my doctor that I wanted to be induced if I didn't come naturally by 40 weeks. So my 36-week appointment, I'd mentioned that I wanted to be induced. He said that at my next appointment, we would talk about it. And so my 37-week appointment, I come in, my doctor was gone. He was doing an emergency C-section. So I talked to a different doctor and she noticed that I had talked about getting an induction and she asked me what day I was thinking about getting induced if it came down to that. I said my number one option would be September 1st. If that doesn't work, then I'd want September 2nd, which is her due date. And so she went back, called the hospital, and made an appointment for me to be induced on September 1st. And I got the day that I wanted. And then at my doctor's office, they start checking for dilation at 38 weeks. And so I came in for my 38-week appointment and I had not dilated at all. Like, I was at a 0. And that was frustrating for me because I was not dilating, I wasn't having contractions, I wasn't having like any signs of labor towards the end of my pregnancy. And I go in for my 39-week appointment, they check me again and I'm at a 0 again. And so I'm like so frustrated because like my body's not doing what it's supposed to do, I'm not dilating, I'm not showing any signs of labor, so I'm like, great. At my doctor's office, you come in the day before you're gonna be induced just to see if they need to place a Foley bulb or not. So I go in the day before I'm getting induced, August 31st, and I had dilated to a 2. So I was like, hallelujah, I don't have to get a Foley bulb placed because they do it in the doctor's office and they send you home and then you keep it in overnight, and sometimes it will start your labor and you'll go into the hospital, or it'll just ripen your cervix so that you can be induced the next day. So I had dilated to a 2 when I was 39 weeks, 5 days, and I was happy about it, but I was also like, I still haven't had any contractions, I haven't had any signs of labor. And so I was like grateful that I didn't have to have a Foley bulb, but it was still like frustrating. And I also realized that I'd made like the right choice of scheduling an induction because I honestly don't know how long she would have been in there if I didn't. So, and then at my hospital that I deliver at, you call them on the day of your induction. So September 1st, I woke up in the morning, you call them an hour before you're supposed to go in. So I had to call them at 5:30 in the morning, ask if anyone had gone into labor the night before, if there were going to be a bed for me, space for me, and they said everything was good. And so my plan was to like call them at 5:30, fall back asleep, and then like get ready at like 6 and go in by 6:30. But I was like wide awake. I was ready to get this baby out. I was nervous, anxious, like scared, all the emotions. So I call them. And then I get up and like start getting ready for the day. I forgot to mention my mom and little sister had driven into town. They got in around midnight the night before, so I like didn't get any sleep. And we were headed to the hospital and got there right at 6:30. And we got there and we got all of our insurance put in, all of our information, and then they take me back to my room in labor and delivery and I get changed to my gown and I'm in there for like 30 minutes, and then around 7:15 the nurse comes in. She does an ultrasound because the last time I had an ultrasound she was breech, but she had turned since then, so she was head down, and so everything looked good. So then around 7:30 a.m. my doctor comes in and he measures my cervix and I'm still at a 2, and then he breaks my water. So he breaks my water and then the nurse starts Pitocin, and that all starts at about 7:30 a.m. And to back it up a little bit, my husband asked my doctor at one of our previous appointments, like, how long does it take for an induction? And he said for most women, from the beginning of the induction process to when the baby gets there is about 12 hours. So I knew I was in for the long haul. So anyways, he breaks my water, start Pitocin. I also have a baby monitor hooked up to my stomach, and I have a contraction monitor hooked up to my stomach, and I also have a blood pressure that is like strap on my arm, and it goes off every like hour or so just to see my blood pressure. And so I do like pretty good for the first like hour. Like contractions start and they're not horrible, but they're pretty consistent. So I get to like hour 3, and the nurse is like upping my Pitocin every hour, I think. So I get 3 hours in. So at like 10:30, 11-ish, I have like horrible contractions. Like I'm crying through all of them, like, and they're on top of each other, and they're just like one after another, and I was just in so much pain. I was always planning on getting the epidural, but I wanted to like see how far I could go without it. And I learned that with like Pitocin, it is like the contractions are hard to go through. I thought that I was dilating like crazy because of how much pain I was in, how much I was contracting, like everything that was going on. I was like, I've got to be like at least a 5, right? And so at that point, I was kind of stubborn. I didn't really want to get the epidural because I was like, no, I need to push through this. But my sweet husband saw me in so much pain and ordered the epidural for me. And the anesthesiologist was in his surgery, so I had to wait. So my nurse told me about another medicine that I could take that just like takes the edge off. Like you can still feel like the pain, but it's like more bearable. And so she goes and asks my doctor if it's okay to give it to me, and he says yes. She puts it in my IV, and instantly I am just like high as a kite. Like I don't even know what was going on. Like I just remember being there wondering when an epidural was coming, but I also like did not care about a single thing. I was just like so loopy, and it worked so fast. Like it was instant, and I was just like in so much pain and crying to like just like a noodle. And it was very confusing, but it definitely took the edge off, and it definitely helped me a ton. We sat for like 30 minutes, and that medicine wore off like pretty fast. I'd say it wore off after like 15 minutes. And then I was back to like feeling my contractions, and I had the shakes like crazy. I was shaking a ton because of my contractions. Then the anesthesiologist comes in with the epidural. He's so quick, and he's like so fast at what he did. Like he didn't even tell me like what I needed to do, but I went to a birthing class a few weeks before I gave birth, so I kind of like knew what to do because they had videos of people getting epidurals. But he just like did it really quick, and he was like, you're gonna feel cold, you're gonna feel a prick, you're gonna, you know, he would just tell me what I was gonna feel, and that's what I felt. So he gave me the epidural. It was amazing. Aaron was at my legs when he did it, and it was so quick and so easy and not as bad as anyone ever says it is. And so once that was placed, everything like started to feel so much better. I couldn't feel my contractions. I could feel like the pressure that was going on, but it was not painful at all. Once the epidural is working, that is when the nurse placed my catheter and also checked me for dilation, and I was only at a 3. So, like, all those contractions got me to a 3. Good job. But I was only at 3. I was a little discouraged because I wanted to get the epidural, like, later, because I heard that the epidural can, like, slow down labor, make it longer, and I was like, great. I decided that I was just gonna, like, sit up as much as possible and let gravity help. And my nurse, it was weird. She kept, like, laying me back down, and I kept putting it back up and like trying to like sit, because I know like gravity like is gonna help progress my labor at this point because of the epidural. So yeah, I was out of 3, and then I had the epidural and everything was just cruising. Everyone in the room took a nap. I had Aaron and I had my mom in the room, and like everyone took naps. I rested. I think I took a couple of naps. I started feeling pretty nauseous at one point, and I like took a nap with like a barf bag in my hand, and my nurse saw that I had a barf bag and she was like, don't throw up, it's gonna make you dilate. And I was like, okay. Like, I can't help it if that happens, but okay. My doctor comes back at about 3 p.m. and he was doing his rounds at the hospital, so he came in. He checked my dilation and I was at 6 at 3 p.m. He just said that like sometimes like this can take the longest to get from a 6 to a 10, or it can take a short amount of time, just depends on the person, right? I started having a lot of pressure in my chest with every contraction that I had, and so I wasn't feeling them down below at all, but I was feeling them like up here, and it was like just a weird like painful sensation, and it kind of took away like me noticing like the actual contractions that I was having, and so I was having a really hard time finding my contractions. The nurses switch out at 6 p.m. so I was about to get a new nurse, and right before the old one left, she checked my dilation and I was at about an 8 or 9 right around 6 p.m. She was like, if you feel any urges to push, don't do it, just like keep it in. So I said, okay. And then the nurses switched, and then I had a new nurse who I adored. She like got all ready, got the room all situated to how she likes it. And then at 6:30, she checked me and I was at a 10. So my doctor came in again at 6:30 and he said, okay, you're at a 10. You can start doing like some practice pushes. He said to like really use my strength in the beginning, because a lot of women will just get so tired if they don't, and they end up pushing for like 2 to 3 hours. And he said most like first time moms push like anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. And so like in my head I was like, heck no, I'm gonna be pushing this baby out in 30 minutes. That didn't happen. So I started pushing right around 6:45, and my contraction monitor wasn't picking up my contractions. I couldn't feel my contractions. My nurse couldn't feel my contractions. And so it was just like a guessing game of like when to push. I feel like I didn't do like hardly any pushing, but I must have did enough, because after about 45 minutes is when they could see the head, and the head was about to come out. And I was like one more push away from Paisley being out. So my nurse had me stop pushing because she knew like the next push the baby was gonna be out. She could see the head, she could see the hair. Aaron was on the other side and he could see the head and hair as well. She had someone page my doctor immediately. So she put oxygen on me because the baby was in the birth canal, and I had to sit there with the baby ready to be pushed out and just like wait for my doctor to come. And it felt like the longest time of my life, okay? It was only like 6 or 7 minutes. I literally have it like time stamped. Like, let me see if I can find it. So at 7:49, the doctor's still not in the room. Paisley was born at 7:51. So I'm just like sitting there, oxygen on my face, like literally with the baby in the birth canal. Everyone can see the head, like literally about to come out, and I'm like waiting for the doctor, and it takes like again like 7 minutes for him to come. He comes, like gets all ready, and then he tells me like, hey, we're gonna do a couple pushes, and if I tell you to ease up, then ease up and not push as hard. And I say okay. And so he gets down there. We're having a hard time finding my contractions, so we like basically guess to find a contraction, and we found one, and I start pushing and he immediately is like, ease up. And so I'm like pushing and he's just ease up, and then she comes out like right then. So, and she's like head down, face down, like perfect, and she's placed on my chest. It's the first time seeing my baby. Girl!
Look who came to visit.
51.
Beautiful. Let's get a little. Let's get that out of there. Just let me suck it out. There we go. Let me get it.
Here, Mama.
I'll get it. Oh, you are cute.
I'm gonna unsnatch your dog so we can get it next to you.
Here we go. Here we go.
So good.
1 second.
I'm gonna try to grab his hand.
Just get that out of my hand.
So she's placed on my chest, and her nurse starts rubbing her off, and I'm holding her and crying, and they do like the APGAR score, and I can't describe the emotions that happen when your baby's born, and just bringing life on earth is crazy. And I'm just crying and holding her and looking at her. So that was a special moment, and that is just a very special memory for me. I just really wanted to document that story. While she's on my chest, that her cord is clamped after a few minutes, and then Aaron was able to cut the cord, and then I birthed the placenta at some point. I honestly don't remember. And then I'm still holding her. I get stitched up. I got a 2nd-degree tear, and I also tore towards my urethra, but that one didn't need stitches. So I get all stitched up. I hardly even notice it because I was just holding my baby. I have a nurse that's taking care of me, and she has a nurse that's taking care of her. And then we immediately do skin to skin, and we are just sitting there skin to skin while they finish cleaning up everything and stitching me up. I was probably doing skin to skin for like 30 minutes to an hour, and during that time I breastfed her for the first time. She also pooped on me. She pooped in my hand. And then that's when they weighed her and measured her. She was born at 7:51 p.m. on September 1st. She was 7 pounds, 2 ounces, and she was 20 inches long. So that is Paisley's birth story. Thank you for watching this video. I know everyone has different stories with being induced. That is just my story. That's how my body handled things. And I'm just grateful to have a healthy baby. Make sure you like this video and subscribe. Thumbs up, babies.